Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to discuss about the experience letter format for overseas teaching. This may include New Zealand, Australia, UK, Ireland, any country. So I'll discuss some key components that I feel you should have in your experience letter when you're planning to teach overseas. So let's get started. So the first thing first, this is the most common thing, and I think almost all experience letters they have it: school or institution letterhead, which should include the school name, the school address, city, state, postal code, contact number of school, email address, and website and URL. Now you need to make sure that if your school or college has changed their name, then you should have an experience letter according to their new name, whatever their name is now. Because if they have changed their name, most probably their website URL, their email address must have been changed as well. So if an employer wants to verify that whether a school exists or not, so they should be able to get the correct school email address and the correct school website address so they can reach them. So make sure if you're including an experience letter from such college or school which has changed its name, so in that case, you need to provide an updated experience letter with their updated name, email address, and website URL. The next thing is it should mention the date when it was issued, to whom it may concern. This is to certify that your full teacher name should be there, was employed permanently or fixed term. Now, permanently or fixed term, or you can say the fixed term is also known as temporary teacher. For example, if your school or college told you that they want your services for 6 months, for 9 months, for 1 year, then this is called as a temporary or fixed term job. If your job is permanent, which means it is not specified that you will teach for 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years, then this is called as a permanently employed job. So your experience letter should clearly mention whether it is a permanent job or a fixed term. So whether you are a permanent teacher or a fixed term teacher. So for example, the teacher name was employed permanently at school name as a full-time and part-time. Now, if I tell you when you will submit your application for salary evaluation in New Zealand, because I'm teaching here, so I can tell you that this full-time and part-time thing is really required. So if you were employed as a full-time teacher, you need to mention that you were employed as a full-time teacher. If you're employed as a part-time teacher, you need to mention that you were employed as a part-time teacher. So your employer has to mention that clearly, explicitly on your experience letter. This is really important. Now, by full-time, it means if a college or a school works for 8 hours a day, so you are there to work for 8 hours a day. If a school or college is working 8 hours a day, but you are there for 4 hours or 5 hours or 6 hours or 2 or 3 hours, then it means you are part-time, you are not full-time. So make sure that you mention the permanently or fixed term, full-time or part-time. After that, your subject, for example, if you're teaching mathematics, a mathematics teacher. If you are teaching science, for example, biology, chemistry, physics, so it should mention that clearly. After that, you need to make sure that start date and end date is mentioned clearly on it, and it is mostly there on almost all experience letters. It should clearly mention that you taught mathematics to which year. For example, your college may be having year 9 students, year 10, year 11, year 12. So which classes exactly you were teaching during that time? For example, year 9 till year 12, or for example, year 10 and 11, or year 11 or 12. So make sure that it is specified on your experience letter. The next thing, again, it is really important, the curriculum that you are teaching. For example, are you teaching O levels, A levels, which is British curriculum, CBSE, IB, or you are teaching the federal board students? So make sure that this is also mentioned clearly in your experience letter. The next important thing is number of hours per week. For example, 32 hours, 36 or 40 hours per week. This is super important because when I applied here for my salary evaluation in New Zealand, they wanted to know the number of hours per week, because that number of hours per week are used to calculate the duration. So if it is 40 hours per week, then it means the 1 week, or I will say, for example, in 1 year, if I was teaching 40 hours per week, so it means that my experience is equivalent to the experience of a teacher here in New Zealand. But if I'm teaching, for example, 30 hours a week, so it is less than 40 hours. So they will calculate it and they will let me know that how many months they have considered out of a year. So, for example, I can do a quick math for you. If I'm teaching 30 hours in my previous workplace, so 30 divided by 40 is 0.75 multiplied by 12 months. So it becomes almost 9 months. So, for example, if I have taught for 3 years, so 9 into 3 is 27 months. So instead of 36 months, they will consider it 27 months because I was teaching 30 hours per week. But if I am teaching 40 hours per week, so it will be same as 3 years. But there are different other factors as well, such as you should have teaching diploma and all that. But I'm just referring to the number of hours at the moment. So number of hours are super important. Also, I would like to clear one more thing, that number of hours per week do not include only those hours during which you are teaching. Like those hours are contact hours, right? But it also include the non-contact hours, the hours during which you were in your school but you were not teaching at that time. Maybe you were preparing the learning materials, you were doing other things related to teaching and learning, but you were not teaching for that time. So contact hours plus non-contact hours, they are collectively considered as number of hours per week you have worked for a school. So for example, if a school starts at 7 a.m. and the school ends at 3 p.m., but your first lesson, like your teaching, starts at 8 a.m. and it ends at 2 p.m. So you will consider your time from 7 a.m. till 3 p.m. You will not consider it from 8 a.m. till 2 p.m. So please make sure that you have a really clear understanding about that. In our experience letters, usually we have our name, we have our position and start date and end date and few nice things that during this time we found the teacher professional and all that. But usually it is not mentioned if we were permanent, if it is not mentioned if it was the full time or part time, and it is not mentioned which curriculum we are teaching and how many number of hours. So make sure that you get all these things on your experience letter. Further, if you see key responsibilities, so as I said earlier, usually they just mention one line that during this time we find the teacher hardworking and all that, but make sure to ask them to write down details of your role. So for example, delivered comprehensive lessons in algebra, geometry, calculus, and statistics, prepared students for whatever examinations there were, designed and graded assessments in alignment with curriculum standards, provided additional academic support and tutoring to enhance students' achievements. Finally, the teacher maintained high professional standards, actively engaged in professional development, and contributed to the school educational goal. Now, this is again really important thing. Whenever you apply for overseas, they are keen to know that whether you are doing any kind of professional development trainings or courses. So usually in your schools, in your colleges, you are doing these professional development courses either in the beginning of the term or in the end of the term, or sometimes in some schools or colleges it is happening during every week or fortnightly. So whenever it is happening, make sure that you ask them to mention it in your experience letter. Now this is really important, that is why I have highlighted it as well. One thing which I noticed when I applied for registration as a teacher in New Zealand, they were really keen to know about my practicum or induction program. Now, what do you mean by practicum or induction program? So, for example, you have completed your teaching diploma or degree, whatever it is, and after that, you started working in a school. Okay. So, when you start working in a school, you are a new teacher, you mostly have a mentor who will guide you for different things. So, that is basically the induction program. So you need to mention whichever school was your first school where you got the training. You need to mention this paragraph in that experience letter from that school or college. It should mention that the teacher completed a specified duration. So for example, it was for 6 months, 3 months, or a year. They should mention it under the guidance of, and they should mention the name of mentor, which can be your subject head or whoever it is. The program included regular observations, mentoring sessions, and professional development aimed at refining teaching practices and ensuring compliance with educational standards. And make sure when you are mentioning this, Always maintain a log wherever you are working, whatever professional development activities you have done. Maintain a log, create a table. In the table, mention the date, mention the training that you have done. If you do not remember the dates, at least mention the trainings that you have done and little bit description of those trainings. And especially when you are in an induction program, you should ask your mentor teacher to provide the feedback on your lesson observations. So you should keep that feedback with you as an evidence. You should note down the key points of mentoring sessions along with the date. And if there are any professional development trainings that you have done during your induction time, you should mention them as well. If you have communicated to the parents, if you have had meetings with the parents, make sure that you have all those things, compile them as a document, and you should use that as a supporting evidence for your induction. After that, there should be, the principal name, the designation, school name, contact number of school, and email address of school. So in a nutshell, if we quickly go through, you need to have all this information on your experience letter. If this is a college or school where you have not done your induction program, but if this is your first college or school where you started teaching after doing your teaching diploma or teaching degree, then in that case you need to include this paragraph as well to support that you have completed the induction program, because all the overseas countries, they are really keen to know that whether you have completed an induction program or not. And if you have completed, then as I told you, you should compile the data to support that with your experience letter. What I will do, I will upload this experience letter in Google Drive, and I will provide the link of this letter in the description of the video so you can download it and you can use it as a reference, and you can reach out to your colleges and schools and you can ask them to provide you the experience letter. Definitely you have worked there. You are not asking them for anything illegal. You are just asking them to provide you the experience letter as per the format that I have discussed with you. I hope this video will help you to clear your understanding regarding the requirements of experience letters for teaching overseas. If you feel that this video was informative for you, then like the video, share it with your friends, and also subscribe to my channel to stay tuned for such helpful and useful content in future as well. Thank you.